Hi, I'm Symphoneers, and today we're taking a look at a piece of interactive generative ambient music tech stuff, the thing behind me. Twitch plays music, basically. This has been very much inspired by Mike Ruganetta's wonderful Brick Bear streams. To give a little bit, quick example of this, if I type in like poetry, whoop, that's not how typing works. Poetry, 1, we can spawn a poetry cube. Or we can change the flow rate, or Twitch chat rather can change the flow rate on the balls to be super duper fast. Yeah, there we go. So I'll be talking about the workflow to get all of this set up between Max MSP and Unreal Engine and stuff, kind of showcasing everything. I won't be doing much actual tutorialization because there's some really good existing tutorials. I'll more be kind of like linking to those in the description and talking about my implementation of them. And then, yeah, we'll close the whole thing out with 5 or 10 minutes of this and me not talking, because, I don't know, I like it, I think it's neat. Yeah, I think that's about everything, so let's get into it. So, the core of the project is built on DePontague's, Twitch Plays Max project. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. This person, I'm just taking a crack at it. Yeah, so the core of the Max brain is built on that, and this is kind of what the whole thing looks like. The logical part, or the start of it, is this section over here, which filters for various word plus number inputs from Twitch chat. We're routing like boop and poetry and stuff and sending all of that to an OSC port. Once we send it to the OSC port, in Unreal Engine, we start taking a look for it, Unreal Engine looks for it in the OSC-BP blueprint, which is based off of OSC for Unreal by Monsieur Gustave, also on GitHub. Yeah, I just, all of this, by the way, is using the kind of like provided templates and stuff, so I'm not doing anything super fancy. We get the Twitch chat messages in this kind of OSC stuff section, which is talked through in the tutorials pretty cleanly. I don't think I have anything to say on that front. Then from there we use a sequence to logically check if the incoming message is a boop or a flow or a poetry command. If it's a boop command, which turns those dropping balls on and off, we pull the value of the OSC message as a boolean using the get command. The get command is super flexible and stuff, which is great. You can pull any of the messages you're getting from Twitch chat as a boolean or as a float, or I guess as an integer or whatever data type you need, pretty much. So that gives you a nice kind of degree of flexibility in Unreal for filtering things. Once that happens, or it gets the on command, we set a loop parameter to on. We do establish some variables just to make sure that everything works cleanly. Flow, or like we have the flow rate as a variable, how quickly each ball spawns, as well as the boop on command as a boolean that we can track. This is mostly, you don't have to have the variables declared. This is mostly to ensure like it doesn't break if Twitch chat decides to get funny and like try to break it by typing in flow without turning the boop on command on first. Just make sure everything is kind of in order and stuff. Once that loop is on and firing, it kind of gets this loop ticking, and we check each loop using this kind of branch and boop on thing here. We check the flow time dynamically, so that will always update and always be current. And then I use a little bit of funny business here to vary the spawn of the flute balls, the little things that drop to ping the vaporwave lady. I should maybe demonstrate that, just to show that behavior. So if we boop one, that will get the balls running, and then if we turn the flow rate up to its maximum, looking at the actual ball spawn behavior, You can see that it's spawning in an area. This is not natural behavior in Unreal. Normally it would all spawn on a single point. The problem with that is with high flow rates or whatever, they kind of spray off in every direction and don't generate musically interesting or useful input, really. I mean, it can, but it's a pretty kind of noisy, chaotic thing. By varying the spawn position manually in that way, or like kind of randomly within an area, we get this much more nice kind of controlled drop, which gives us a more pleasing result. I am gating the input from the boops in the dummy female, or the mannequin's blueprint. Yeah, they can trigger at most every 1/10 of a second, which is just a thing so we don't get really awful or like really fast machine gunning. I also have a pardon me, well, I find it. There is an invisible cone down here, which is something that you might not think to put in if you were working on a project like this, but I have found is useful because it prevents like the balls and stuff from getting jammed under the feet, so you can have this dynamic kind of nice moving central figure while kind of preventing or reducing the really fast machine gunning behavior that is not super musical or nice or whatever. So that's a slightly hacky way to keep the system pretty open, pretty flexible, but just trim out some of the edge cases that you might not want to show up in a project like this. So, sorry, yeah, I kind of jumped around a little bit there. That gets the balls spawning as the balls drop. Yeah, I guess I should just talk through the dummy female blueprint. Whoop, pardon me, that is OBS. Yeah, once the balls actually hit the OBS the mannequin, that triggers a hit event, and that gets the flute bonk, or that sends flute bonk back to the primary OSC blueprint. Yeah, back here, and that sends it to the output. The OSC output is actually one of the few areas where I will just say Monsieur Gustave links to someone else's tutorial for implementing all of this on the GitHub page. That tutorial is mostly very good, particularly for getting messages in. I found the kind of output tutorial, or output as it was outlined in that tutorial, was really overcomplicated for my purposes. You can just use the steps Monsieur Gustave has outlined on the GitHub page to send OSC messages out pretty simply if you're not doing anything too complex with your implementation. Like, this is not overall very complex for OSC stuff, so that's why I just have a super rudimentary output section. Yeah, so aside from that, or other messages we're pulling in the Unreal blueprint, we have the flow rate, which I kind of talked about. We do set that as a global variable, just so everything's a little bit cleaner. Again, we're just checking for the flow rate with or the flow message with a branch boolean. And we also have the poetry cube, which we check for twice. We also check the message just to see that it's a poetry 1 command, not poetry 0 or whatever. Make sure that the input is what we're looking for specifically. This is mostly with an eye towards a more complicated poetry implementation in the future, where it'll do more with the number in the poetry command. Currently it just flip-flops between two playback files, or two audio files. Like when you hit poetry 1, it does a one-shot of those and spawns a cube. So anyway, once all of that, or like as kind of all that's happening, as the balls are hitting the mannequin and sending messages back to max MSP, that's where we go back to max, and we have the UDP receive thing here. As a quick note, you do need to set up all your ports and stuff properly. It's not too hard, but just in Unreal's, project settings, I believe it's in the project settings, there's like plugins and stuff. Yeah, OSC plugins that lets you set your ports and things properly, so just be sure you get that done properly. And then we're receiving from port 880 in max, so let's get this running again, just for demonstration purposes. Group 1, or just so I have some input coming into the system. Ooh, very high. Yeah, so we are taking that input, the ball strike event inputs, and just making sure that they're obeying as they in max. And then from there we are triggering a one-shot event that's a bunch of sine waves, or 3 of them. I have these set up to be multiples of a fundamental, and they're getting set out there. I also am using call to quantize them to a diatonic scale, all sharps. I don't remember which one that is offhand. Whoops, bad musician brain, whatever. But yeah, I have them quantized to a nice kind of pleasing non-dissonant key, basically. And sending into a VST thing in Max, which is running Valhalla Shimmer. So that's where all the fancy reverb is coming from. We are also pulling that frequency data from the quantized randomized hits to generate the pad background. We have 10 oscillators running in parallel, rectangle oscillators, using the MC Rect and MC Low Res, or I have a low res, 10 low res filters, also filtering those, doing a little bit of filtering individually. At various frequencies, and then we are running those through a mixer, basically, or kind of spatializer, and what's this actually called again? MC Gain. Yeah, MC Gain at chance 10. This is new to me as someone who's mostly coded in Max 7 before MC.objects were implemented. You do need to specify the channels if it's over 4, I believe over 4 channels. So we keep the last 10 strike values in memory, basically, and set each oscillator to a channel which has a position on the stereo spectrum, or like left-right position, and then we are dynamically altering the volume of those, which is what this section is doing. To do that, we are routing between two gain settings, 50 and 110. And we're doing so over roughly 3 seconds. I am piping the value to each gain individually, which is what this section is doing, and the delay increases as it goes. So like there's a half-second delay between the first gain following this channel, then a full another half-second, so it's a full second behind the first channel, and so on and so on. So it kind of propagates slowly and non-rhythmically evolves. One thing I wanted to make sure I did with the system is minimize like rhythmic repetition, just because I find, especially when you're doing like kind of ambient generative or whatever, that type of thing can be distracting, or it just pulls you out of like vibing to the nice spoops. Yeah, so all that spatialization is happening, and then getting fed into another low-res filter that's just wiggling around a little bit, basically. Oh, yeah, that's all running properly. Yeah, we are feeding that through a volume section, and I think that is more or less everything. The poetry command is just using a counter to flip-flop between 2 samples, like I was saying. Also running that through a low-res filter just because the audio samples I'm using are pretty crispy, like they have a lot of high-end. Yeah, that is about it. So, I am going to, after the cut, just do like 10 minutes or whatever of playing the patch for you, because I think it's neat and think it's nice, and it'll just seems like a good way to round out the video. Let me know if you would like a 2-hour video of this or whatever for working to. That's a thing I can do. I don't know if people want that. Yeah, if you like all of this, like, subscribe and stuff. I feel a little bit weird. I haven't touched this channel in a few years. And I'm kind of, I'd like to start posting more regularly again. I did some like Basel Castle stuff a few years ago. I am interested in doing more work doing stuff like this, although I don't actually technically own Max 8. So, liking, subscribing, whatever, genuinely helpful. If this channel can even like monetize or something, that would make me feel a lot better about buying a Max 8 license and making more kind of tutorials or like more things talking about projects and how to implement them and so on. Anyway, I'm rambling now. I think that's everything I wanted to cram into this video. Thank you for watching. I hope it was useful. And yeah, I'll shut up now and let's just vibe to the music for 10 minutes or whatever. Thanks. Bye-bye.
The sound of an endless love growing inside an infinity of island universes, allowing all causality to dream. And connecting the fractal heart to manifest endless realities without limit across space and time. The sound of an endless love growing inside an infinity of island universes to manifest all causality to dream without limit across space and time. The sound of an endless love growing inside an infinity of island universes, allowing all causality to dream, connecting the fractal heart to manifest endless realities without limit across space and time.